We are live in 3, 2, 1. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Can you hear me? Sound check. I have a new mic, so I need to know if it's working. There she is! Sound check. My producer is in the house. I got a new mic. Let me know if it starts having any interference or anything. I couldn't figure out where to put it, but I put it there instead of here because then it would have just been flopping. So I noticed that whenever I play the lives back after me and my guests are done, my voice doesn't come through as loud, and I don't know why that is. That doesn't happen on TikTok lives, but Stacy might know. So whenever I play back the lives from Instagram, that's the only thing I notice a difference in. I love Instagram lives much better than TikTok lives. But whenever I save them and play them back, my voice, you do, okay, my voice is not as loud and crisp. So I was like, I got to get me a microphone, which I already need to get a microphone to begin with. So I ordered some, but I didn't like them, so I returned those and got these today because this has a little swivel clip, whereas the other one, it was just set one way, and that was all you could do. So let's try this. I know that's going to be tricky. It's finding a place to put it or just hold it. I don't like this clip. This clip's already upsetting me. Yeah. I didn't know it was going to be a flimsy clip. I like the swivel, but I didn't know it was going to be flimsy. Can you hear the fabric now? I need to sit real still. I was trying to avoid doing it like this because it's just going to hang. These are my very first mics, so I don't want to get too freaked out about it. I will learn as I go, and I will get, okay, good, yay. I will get fancier mics as we move on, and then when I officially start the podcast, I'll get a real mic. But this is my first ever mic of any kind. So, thank you. Stacy's mom has got it going on. You should come over here and visit me. That's my neighbor. My neighbor is in the house, but she's not in the house. But she's next door. You should come and visit me. Well, if you stay here a minute, please let me know, how the sound is and if it starts rubbing or scraping or anything. I'm waiting for my guest to join. She will be joining at 7:30. She is an hour behind us. She's in Mississippi. So she'll be joining me at 6:30, but she's just got a jam-packed schedule. Such a busy person. She's so fucking busy. But I'm burning up, and I need to turn on my air conditioner, but I'm afraid if I turn... Oh, there she is. How do I pull her up? Come on, people. Why is this happening? There we go. This doesn't give me any space. Oh, okay. Stop. Why are you doing this? Move! Excuse me. To myself. I don't want to move because I don't want the microphone to go crazy. Oh, so I was wondering if I could turn on my air conditioner because I was hoping with this mic it might be more isolated. It does have some special features where it's supposed to kind of, what's it called? Kind of drown out the background noise. I mean, it was $40. It's not that fancy, but it had some perks to it. But I'm already hot. So, okay, so I just sent Judy an invite. Noise reduction. There you go. There's my producer right there. Hey, Stacy, do you want to be a moderator? I mean, I know you might not stay in here, but can I make you a moderator, just for future for future purposes. This leather is going to drive me crazy. Sure, she said sure. That way I got you locked in, you know. I got you locked in. But I'm going to have to put something over this fake leather chair because my back is, you know, that fart sound that you make when you're sitting on fake leather. Heart. Where's Judy? I thought I saw her in here, so I tried to add her, but she didn't come in. Maybe she's waiting. Maybe she wants to make her entrance. I want a desk mic. That's what I want to get when I get the podcast going. But all this is in preparation to get me used to talking. But yeah, this is all new to me. You can really help me out here. You could really. I mean, this is what you do for. I don't know if this is what you do for a living, but it's what you do as a side hustle. You know all the ins and outs, okay? She's an actual producer of plays. She tried to get me to audition for the role of Annie in Annie Get Your Gun. I don't know what that movie was. It wasn't Annie. The sun will come out tomorrow. Bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow. I don't know my plays. I knew it had Ann in it. No, I know it was the governor of Texas, but I said Annie. Yeah, I don't know what happened, Judy. I sent you a request. Let's try it again. Hello, how are you? Hello, everybody. Okay, I'm trying to get Judy to join. Judy! Look at this microphone just flopping. If I had a lapel, there she is. I sent you a request.
Well, it's not letting me even join on my laptop, so
Try it again.
like I can get on the phone, I can't get on the laptop and do it.
This microphone.
I can hear you on the laptop, but I cannot. Can you hear me, Sherry?
Yeah, but you can't be on two different devices. There's too much feedback.
I can get on the phone, I can't get on the laptop and do it. I mean, I can, like I was trying to say, I cannot even see the picture on the laptop, so I'm gonna have to just do it on the phone.
Okay.
It's the only way I'm gonna be able to do it, I guess. So
I'm sorry.
I was just trying to not have to hold my phone up the whole time like I did last time.
Well,
But here we are.
Well, I get that. I understand that. You might just have to. You can figure it out. It's a process because I have to do that. Like every time we have meetings at work, I conduct all my business through the cell phone, and I join the meetings through the cell phone. But we're virtual. But I also join on the laptop, but I mute everything on the laptop because you cannot have both devices unmuted. You'll get all that feedback that we just heard. But I sign on the laptop too so that I can see, when they share the screen and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've also got these monitors that I hook up to. But I mean, if you get something that comes in, unless somebody's dying, it shouldn't be that important, right?
Yeah.
My good friend Judy is in the house. In the house. Okay. Can you see me? Can you hear me? I got a mic.
I can hear you fine.
Well, we had a little reverberation, so my producer, who is actually in the house, I don't know if she's still here, she probably left. Her name is Stacy. She could hear the mic rubbing against the fabric, So I had to move it, and now it's here, and it's just like flaccid. It's like a limp thing, and it's just. So, all right, welcome to Warrior Wednesday Recovery Chat. Today is no holds barred. We are going to get down to the nitty gritty, and we're just going to talk all things myths related to addiction, surrounding addiction. Are they myths? Are they facts? Or what are they? Here we go. What's on your mind, Judy? Tell me about it.
I mean, I don't know about myths or whatever, but like, you know, you and I were talking earlier today, and I was telling you that, you know, we get a lot of this debate. Is it is addiction a disease or is it a choice? And
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a big thing that a lot of people don't understand. And so, like, getting it out into the world and, like, if they just knew, like, you know, the old cliche commercials, this is your brain, and this is your brain on drugs, you know, with a little egg frying up. It's kind of, I don't think people understand what it really does to the brain and then how it becomes the disease. It's not a, you know, people say that, you know, it's not a disease because it's not like people choose to get diabetes or they don't choose to get cancer or whatever. But there are scientific studies that show that a lot of times that the way that we eat and the way that we take care of our bodies and all the stuff that we're putting in foods can cause cancer. Diabetes is not because we eat a bunch of junk food. It's because we just eat poorly. And sometimes some people are predisposed to it, you know, and it's kind of like that with addiction. It's not, a person doesn't choose to become addicted.
No, they
They
don't.
they use and they don't. With the bad thing, the funny thing about addiction is that you don't know a person is addicted until you know they're addicted. Like not, you know, there's people that can drink and they can socially use. I don't understand those folks because I'm not one of them. But like they just use it and they put it up and they never touch it again. But then you have those of us like me that once you put a substance in and it, I go way past that tolerance level, and all of a sudden now all my choices have been removed from me because it's all about, you know, the getting and using in ways and means to get more. And that's basically what happens. You know, it no longer becomes about my family or paying the bills or doing this or doing that. It's all about how can I change the way that I feel. And so I don't really think people understand really what it does to the brain, like what happens in there.
So you've touched on a few interesting things there. You don't know you're addicted until you're addicted, and then there are some people that can. What do you specifically want to focus on right now? Because there's a couple different things you kind of talked about.
I mean, you know, I wish we, you know, I don't really know what to focus on, but like I do want to touch on this. Okay. So say there's two young children, I don't know, children, teenagers, you know, and they both go out and they're a little curious, and so they get into the liquor cabinet at mom's house. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
You know, I think a lot of us have done that. And so you have both of them go out and probably drink the same amount. One gets sick, throws it up. That's awful. I shouldn't say that. But anyway, you know, gets sick, decides they never want to do it again. The other one is thinking, wow, this is the greatest feeling in the world. I share that because that one that says this is the greatest feeling in the world is probably the one that's going to turn out to be the one that's an addict or an alcoholic, you know, because they like that feeling. And so all of a sudden they're on that chase. But the one that said, I don't like this feeling is not. But did you know the one that liked the feeling was going to be an addict just by looking at them? Were there behaviors that led up to it, or is there behaviors that we can look at in children as they're growing to determine if they're going to be addicts or alcoholics? You know what I mean? Like, where does it start at? Or does it? Or do we ever recognize it until someone actually puts that first drink in or that first drug? Whether it be nicotine, caffeine, alcohol, you know?
I think that there are life circumstances that are going to determine that, because it's where you are in your life when you pick up. And also, here's another thing. You know, when I was addicted to the painkillers, I had painkillers once or twice in my lifetime, you know, after getting the tooth pulled, and then I was done, even threw them away. I mean, when I was done with what I needed, I threw the rest of them away. One time I had painkillers after an infected tooth, and I had an allergic reaction. I was itching real bad. So I called my friend down the street. She was a pharmacist. She's like, yeah, you're just having an allergic reaction. Just stop. I can't remember what happened. Maybe we switched or whatever. But anyway, there's been multiple times in my life, just a couple, where I had painkillers. And, you know, I just remember throwing them away. When you were done, you didn't need anymore. You just threw them away. And it had never entered my mind or addiction. I mean, I broke my ankle as a kid, and I had a cast and everything. There was no painkillers. I didn't get painkillers. I was a teenager. Tylenol, maybe. I remember being in excruciating pain, but so I didn't get pain medicine then. But sometime in my adulthood, you know, there was a couple of times where I had painkillers, and then I was done. I mean, I must have been in a good place in my life or something, because it was only when I was in a horrible marriage, feeling neglected, and just, you know, he was always on the road, and had a car accident and was prescribed the painkillers, and then suddenly I just felt good. You know, I was lonely, and I took the pills, and the pain went away, but all of a sudden I could clean the whole house, you know? And so I think, you know, why that particular time? And I had never been addicted to anything. I did like to party, but, you know, it was, you know, I was a nurse, and every other weekend I got off. So every other weekend, Friday or Saturday, I would go out and we would drink. But that wasn't, you know, a problem. But the only thing I can attribute it to is that time I was in a loveless marriage, and I was just not feeling good. So I don't know. I think that it's, if somebody's just really happy and doing really good, and well, that doesn't make no sense either, because you never know. It doesn't discriminate, bottom line. But I think that there are professionals that might can, if they know what to look for. I don't know. That's a good question.
I do know, like, I feel like that sometimes that I don't think, like, I do think that there's some that are born, and I maybe everybody has an addictive gene. Maybe everybody does. I don't know.
I don't know.
I do believe that I have been born with the disease of addiction. I do believe that about myself.
Okay.
But I also know, and I have met people that have lived their whole lives and never used a substance or never went overboard with it. And then one day, like you're talking about, they wake up and here I am, this feeling is good. I like this. I want more of it. You know, is that, and it can be due to life situations, or maybe we got a little bit too much. I had a teacher one time that talked about, and I wish I could do it like he did, but he talks about we all have this tolerance level here. And so, like, you can go, once you go past that tolerance, then everything else is null and void or whatever. I don't know how he said it, but like once you pass it, like you can never go back down below this level that he was talking about. And, you know, maybe it was that one time that, I don't know. I feel like some people are predisposed. I do feel like our environments play a lot in it. Life situations plays a factor in some of it. And then you just have some of those, because my brother and sister, we all have the same genes. I'm the only addict. You know, I think we talked about that last week. My mother and father both drank, but they quit when they had consequences. I had many consequences and never stopped until I finally stopped, you know? So, that's why I do believe that it is a disease of the brain. I do. I think was talking to somebody the other day that they was talking about their parent having dementia. Dementia is a brain disease. So is addiction. You know, I don't think that we can just go in and cure it and take it out. I think that we have to begin making maybe doing things differently, or like we have to like change our environment. We have to start working on our thought processes, changing that. Like it has to be rewired, if you will. We have to unlearn everything that we've ever learned and relearn something different in order for us to maintain recovery. Just
Right.
like kind of like a diabetic, you know. I mean, if I followed a good diet and drank water instead of mellow yellow, if I didn't eat a lot of, you know, and I don't really eat a lot of breads, but I noticed that when I changed my diet and I started doing some stuff and I started exercising more, like they took me off of my diabetic medicine.
Yeah.
You know, but it was maintaining that, you know. I think addiction is the same way. I think you have to find what your prescription is, and sometimes it's a 12-step meeting, sometimes it's church, sometimes it's just, you know, I don't know, some people just quit like my mom and dad did. They just quit.
Right. No, exactly. And that's like, well, let me just add something. Stacy said something. I feel it's when you find yourself in a place where you lack the ability to cope. That's so true, Stacy. Like that's how we cope. And so I think that, at the time that mine turned into an addiction, why that time was because it helped me cope during a very lonely time, a depressed time, and all of a sudden I felt good. And it's okay. People can drink something and feel good, or take something for another reason, but a side effect is feeling good. And then you move on. But why that particular time? Well, I think it was life circumstances. But then again, I don't know, that leads to a whole different thing. But I want to touch on what you were just talking about, Judy. What did you just say? Oh, yeah. So there was a time when I used to smoke, and I could smoke only like every other weekend. We'll use that as an example. Whenever I would go out, I liked to smoke when I drank. Okay, that was my thing. I was a social smoker. I didn't smoke 24/7. Now, there have been times in my life when I did pick up smoking, but there just for years and years and years, I would only smoke when I drank. I just enjoyed it. It was just fun to smoke, and then the cigarettes would go in the trash the next day or whatever. They were never smoked again. They were done. And people used to be jealous of me. I'm just so jealous of you that you can do that. And I'm like, well, I can't explain it. I like to smoke when I drink, and then when I'm done, I'm done. So that's kind of one of those things that kind of like what you were just talking about. I mean, I was able to put it down. It was just for a fun little thing. However, there was a time when I was smoking when I was living in Mississippi, and oh my God, I was smoking so much. Oh my gosh. But then when I put it down, I was done. I quit. So I don't know. Wow, you really raised some interesting things there.
Yeah, I remember, and I think, well, like for me, like there was different things that I'd done. I spoke on this last week, you know, um, as a child, liking that adrenaline rush, doing little things like my mom would throw her cigarettes out and I would go over there and get them. It was an adrenaline rush. So, I think that sometimes we get addicted to the chase, and as who was that said that? Anyway, the woman up here that said, when you find yourself in a bad place, I do think sometimes we get in that mind space and, it starts taking over because, we use cigarettes, we use caffeine. A lot of people have different vices that they use to cope. I mean, they just do. And I think that maybe, I don't know what happens if we just cross a line that we don't understand, but at some point something happens, and then we have to bring it back. And that's where a lot of people get lost.
It's when we pick a coping mechanism that is not it's not a good
Healthy.
idea. Like one of my coping mechanisms is yoga, but that doesn't interfere with my life. Uh,
Right. But that is kind of like a healthy coping mechanism, whereas regardless, people don't realize that whether it's a healthy or a good coping mechanism, some things like smoking and drinking are coping mechanisms for certain people. That doesn't mean they're good ones. It just means that it helps them to cope with life. And at some point, there's some control that gets lost in there. For me, it was. For me, there was a point where there was no control. I drank for years, worked, took care of my kids, or my kid only had one at the time. Never went to jail, never had any consequences of that sort, had never had a DUI, had never been in a wreck, like no consequences. And then, here I am like I shared on this last week, started having other issues mentally and physically, wound up not working. I got put on disability, like a lot of things, like there was this downward spiral that came.
It's a snowball effect. It really
It
is.
was. And then all of a sudden, at the end, when I reached the bottom, if you will, due to whatever reasons, I was able to like learn how to actually utilize most of the coping mechanisms that I already knew about but never thought worked. I had therapists tell me, well, journal or, go to therapy and talk about it. Find you somebody you can vent. Like there was a lot of different things. I never done any of that stuff. And now, I do because it's part of the program that I work anyway. So, I do that. So it's just, I think we just, whether they're negative or not, I don't think that we often see the downward spiral until we've already hit a place in our lives where it's out of control.
I think there's a lot of times where we question it.
Mhm. Yes. I
And
contemplated back and forth for years, A lot of us do. But I mean, there's a lot of things out here in this world that, you know, we, we don't make the choice. Going back to the point that we started out as, is it a disease or is it a choice? There's a lot of things that start out as a choice. You know what I mean?
you make a
Um,
choice to pick up, but I don't think we make a choice to become addicted. And I thought it's
no,
already been proven that it is a disease. So,
it does, but you still have a lot of people out here that don't understand it because they're trying to compare apples to oranges.
oh, yeah, sure. No, you're right.
And so that's where that conflict comes in. And at the end of the day, does it really matter if it's a disease or a choice? If people are dying from it, we should be getting more into a solution about it instead of worrying about is it this or is it that?
There's a
That's in
mind.
my opinion.
There's a mind. You're right. There's a mindset. Why don't you just quit? Just quit. I this. I know I've told you about this before, but you may not remember it. But there was a time when I first was living with my brother, and I was trying to get help, and he said something. So I quit. Okay, I was in recovery. I had quit because I moved to him to get my life together. And at some point, we were sitting at the kitchen table, and I don't know what it was, but he said, "You're not really an addict because if you were, you wouldn't have been able to quit." And I was like, "Yes, I was." And I found myself defending the fact that I was an addict, and I was defending it. And I was like, let me have this. I'm an addict. I was an addict. I quit, and he's like, "No, you weren't truly an addict because you quit." And that just was like mind boggling. So I quit, so that means I wasn't an addict. It's like, why are we even struggling with this label? It's like you don't even want to admit that. I mean, I don't like the word addict, and I don't refer to myself as one, but that's a whole different conversation. I am a person in recovery, but I just couldn't believe he said that. You're not you weren't really an addict. So in other words, in essence, you didn't really have a problem because you quit, which really it doesn't even make any sense. So I don't think it makes
Right.
any
Well, it would
sense.
be just like me, even if they had taken me off my diabetic medicine, does not change the fact that I'm still diabetic. I still have to manage and control it.
There you go. There you
You
go.
know, it doesn't matter. So
Oh
I
my
just know that my,
gosh. That sorry, that just Stacy saying, I feel addiction is when you lose control. It doesn't mean you weren't an addict. It means you were able to do the steps before you lost complete control. She was saying that at the same time you were talking about what
Mhm.
you just said and about control and whatnot. And you know it.
Now I
Yeah.
will say this, Sherry, I do. Of course, you know, I work a 12-step program, and so I know when you do different, you know, we do different things for our recovery. For me, it is a 12-step program, and the reason that I still refer to because I hated referring to myself as an addict for a long time, even in recovery. And so I went into this, I'm a recovering addict and this stuff. And now a lot of times when I refer to myself as an addict, now if I'm talking to somebody that doesn't go to meetings or doesn't understand, I will say, and I'm an addict in recovery. But I still always, it's crazy because I just realized that I always do that. Because even if I'm in a meeting, I always identify myself as an addict first, and then I say my name. And so even when I'm talking to people and I say I'm an addict in recovery, I do that mostly because I need to remember that if I ever think that I'm cured, if you will, that, you know, that's a bad place for me to be. I've never relapsed, but does that mean I won't or that I couldn't? You know, we use that yet. You're eligible too. It's what it stands for. So I haven't relapsed yet, you know. I do that to remind myself that, and I do it to identify sometimes to other people who may be struggling with it. So I use that term not because I like to be referred to as an addict, but because it is part of me. It is part of who I am. I don't want to forget that part of me because the moment that I forget that part of me, it puts me in a dangerous place. That I believe that. Like I said, I don't have relapse, so I don't know if it would. But why play a game of, you know, chance with my life? You know, what I've been doing has been working for a very long time.
Oh, I wouldn't change it. And everybody's story is unique. Everybody's story is different. And yeah, I just do not call myself an addict. And I do say I struggled with addiction for many years. I am a person in recovery for the rest of my life. I'm a woman in recovery. Um, yeah, I just never say that I'm an addict because to me that's present tense. But everybody, you know, like you say, whatever works for you, do that. So, and you know, I even had a conversation with someone. The first person I had a chat with, interview thing, was somebody said something. No, it was a live we were doing, but she was the first person I interviewed. And we were doing a live on TikTok. I don't know what it was. Yeah. So she there was some confusion about sober and clean. And what was the confusion?
Sober, I don't know if this is it, but I know, you know, we have that a lot in meetings and stuff, and sober's more of an, and to do a
Alcohol.
disclosure, I'm not trying to like promote either 12-step program, but sober is an AA terminology and clean is a Narcotics Anonymous terminology. So, you know, that's why when you hear me talk, I say I'm clean. If you know, a lot of times you hear AA people talking, they'll say sober, but then you've got other 12-step programs that will use both of those languages as well. That may have been it, but that's a big part. But a lot of people don't understand. Well, why? What is it difference? What difference does it make what you say or how you say it? And it's really about respecting the house that you're in. You
Oh,
know,
got you. Because there are some people, like sometimes I may just say sober just as all inclusive. There are people that say sober and they mean all inclusive, but there are people that say sober and they're just referring to alcohol. They still smoke weed, they do other things. Oh, that's a whole other conversation. But Now, you know, just putting it out there, and I know you know this, I did not have an issue with drinking, and I have not quit drinking. Now, I have not drank since March 17th of 2020, and I know that for a fact because that was the day that the last day I went to the gym and the last day I went to the yoga studio, and then we went on complete lockdown here in Virginia. And a very special friend of mine came over and we had a wonderful evening together and we shared a little bit of scotch, and that was it. And you know, that was just, you know, here and there, a little special occasion or whatnot. But I didn't drink some that evening. It was my first time ever tasting scotch, and it was just a little bit. You know, you don't gulp it; you just drink a little thing of it.
You may
And
not gulp it. I gulp it when I'm.
say, okay, there you go. So, you know, 2 years ago I tried scotch for the first time, and you just pour like a little bit in the glass and you just sip it. And but you know, when I had some that night, I didn't say I'm never going to drink again, and I didn't know when I would. And honestly, I don't know if I'm ever going to drink again because it felt nice, but I don't want to lose control of my faculty. I like to be 100% in charge of my faculties at all times. And now as I'm getting a little older and I'm in the menopause, I have brain fog all the time. And so, you know, I don't know, but I am sober. I can tell you I'm sober. I'm sober. But when I say I'm sober, I don't know that that means for life. I don't know. But
Right.
but I am sober, and I can legally, authentically say I'm sober. um, you know, even if I drink tomorrow, I'm sober today. But and I don't know where I was going with that story, but I shared it.
It needed to be told.
So Tim says Tim said two things. And somebody else said hello. I can't pronounce your name, sir, but hello. We are all addicted to something like Starbucks, and I want to address that real quick. I know he's being funny. He laughed. Ha ha. I mentioned last week that I have to check myself from time to time because I don't want to be controlled by any vices. Okay, I have vices, but I don't want to be controlled by them. And from time to time, I will quit Starbucks because I feel like I'm being controlled. Well, I quit again yesterday, and there's a couple of reasons behind that. I actually quit like a week ago, and it was kind of like, not quit, but just, you know, I need to take a step back because I have to check myself every so often. But then yesterday I did it like, oh, hell no. But it's not because of the addiction, but I am craving it. I've been a little irritable today. And I actually went 2 days, and then yesterday I went and got some, but then after yesterday I was like, no more. So I was recently told that my cholesterol is a little elevated, but the good cholesterol was so high, it makes up for the bad cholesterol, and I'm okay, but doctor was like, we might just start you on a low dose medication. And I said, oh, no, 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 no. Let me just do the diet and everything. She's like, okay, 6 months, and then if not, we're going to start you on a low dose. And so I have. So for almost 2 months now, I've been watching everything I eat, just been back to healthy, because I saw where I slipped up. I wasn't paying attention to this Starbucks drink that I get like pretty much every day. And last night I looked it up and I said, I just want to look at the nutrition facts for this specific drink I get. Because I don't get just a latte. I get this shaken espresso with oat milk and 6 pumps of white mocha. And I looked it up, and there is 11 grams of sugar per pump, and there's 6 pumps. So there's 66 grams of sugar. Fuck, I forget that's there. 66 grams of sugar, but that doesn't even include the sugar that's probably in the oat milk too. And I was like, and you know, I have all this belly fat, and I've been like, oh, everything's menopause. And I'm like, I had to have a talk with myself last night. And I was like, you're at this mild risk for heart attack because your cholesterol was a little elevated, and I take that very seriously. And so, yeah, I talked to myself last night, and all these things, sugar is highly linked to correlated with heart disease. So, yeah, so there's no playing around. Last night I made myself look at it, and I'm like, no, you can't do this anymore. So it wasn't even so much about the addiction to Starbucks. It was like, no, I want to live. I've got to stop this. I have to stop this. It was a health choice, and but it's going to be tough. I know it. But now that I made myself look at the information, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. I need to do this. And then Tim says, I have an addictive personality, meaning there are some things I really like to. Now, see, so much of this, like to an extreme, some of these comments overlap and I can't read them. You like to an extreme. Yeah, I like some things to an extreme too. Stacy said, I have to sign off to go into production meeting. I am proud of you both for being able to discuss this so openly. Thank you, Stacy. Love you.
Thank you.
Stacy is my neighbor, and we actually met on TikTok, and she saw one of my videos, and she went out and duetted my video, and she was like, are we neighbors? She lives, well, there's one building between the two of us in the city. But she does produce plays and whatnot, and she invited me to audition for the role of Annie. I'm kidding. It wasn't Annie. It was Ann, the Texas governor. Tim says, I love Ben & Jerry's. The only ice cream I eat. I only drink Starbucks and fresh grind my coffee daily. I am convinced that I am extreme with things that I like. Oh, that's interesting. Okay,
Well, I
yeah.
mean, and to address that, like, I think that a lot of people can go to extreme with a lot of different things. Some people are just easier to reel it back in, whereas other people take it that they just go to the extreme and they lose the ability to control. Like, people don't understand that at some point, and I don't know if I addressed this last week when we was talking about, the freeze, fight, or flight part of the brain kicks in when it starts detecting danger or stuff like that. And so after a person uses for so long, if that's the part of the brain that is controlling us, like the rational part of our brain doesn't have the ability to make rational decisions. And so, like, I used because, and I told him this the other day, like, I used to feel and I used not to feel. So at some point,
Take a note of that. She uses to feel and then she uses to not feel. Make a note of that. Thank you.
it's great, ain't it? But I didn't realize how powerful that certain things, trauma and addiction and other things, how it affects that part of it affects our brain. And the addiction, like Tim talking about people having things that is too extreme. Well, once you reach that level, you have found that one thing that makes you feel good. All of a sudden, I'm on a search for that. But what sent me out on that search? It's not the drugs is not the problem. What's the problem is what led me to using, what keeps me using, why am I so afraid to stop using, what happened in my life so bad that I have to feel like I've got to change the way that I feel. And so, like, for me, and I can share this honestly and openly, like, there was a lot of trauma that happened at a very young age. Freeze, fight, or flight part of the brain takes over because that's what makes us either freeze, fight, or flight. And so even when there's not danger, if that part of the brain detects it, says, oh, this might be dangerous, it already automatically kicks in, and it doesn't let your prefrontal cortex take over to make the rational decisions that you need to make to handle the situation. It takes over. You lose the ability to make a rational decision once you've hit that point with addiction, like you lose it. You no longer have the ability to make a decision rationally. You're going to let that part of the brain take over, and that's where so many people go. Like, why is it some people recover and some people don't? Why is it some people that they go in and they go in and out of treatment, they get a little bit of clean time or sober time here, or a little bit of clean time or sober time or there, but they still die because their addiction killed them? I don't know. I can't answer that question. I don't know what makes some of us be able to recover and never return back to that lifestyle, and then some just never get away. And I think I was reading a study not long ago, people who use meth, and I'm sure heroin is coming up on that list. It's harder. Like there's a smaller success rate for an addict who uses meth to stay clean. And I'm like, wow. Because I don't have relapse in my story, and I was addicted to a whole lot of stuff, and that being one of them. I don't understand it.
There's no rule, and people don't understand this, but there's no rule saying we have to relapse. And I think
Right.
some people in recovery get nervous they haven't relapsed yet because it's kind of expected. People will tell you relapse is part of recovery. It can be part of recovery. I try to be real careful telling people, because there are people that will say relapse is to be expected, it's part of recovery. And I think, it's like, why would I don't agree with telling people that. Now you can tell it may happen, it may be a part of, but there are people that just outright say it's gonna happen, relapse is part. No, it's not. It's not necessarily going to happen. It's okay if it does. We're going to get back on the horse, we're going to move forward. But there is a lot of misconception about that too, though. People
So
thinking,
I never tell anybody that relapse is a part of recovery, because
I
it's
hear
not.
people, they do.
Yeah, they say it all the time. Relapse is part of recovery. No, it isn't. It's part of your addiction. Has nothing to do with recovery.
Oh
It
yeah.
may be part of your story too, and it may be a stepping stone that may come up in your life to get you to the next level. It may happen. Maybe you need that. And I hate to say that so loosely. So some people sometimes, when they relapse, is that moment that they finally get this clarity that says, wait a minute, maybe I really am an addict and I just cannot use under no circumstances. So some people, it's part of the story, it's part of their lesson to learn what they need to do in order to maintain recovery, but it's definitely not part of recovery.
We need to
Recovery is
take.
me doing some Yeah, recovery is me doing something different. Me, it's an active change in my thoughts and ideas, my behaviors, all these things. That's what recovery is. It's an active change. If I'm still doing drugs, or if I'm still going back to that, how is that recovery? That's me submitting to my addiction and allowing it to take over. It has nothing to do with recovery. So I'm glad you touched on that.
It's really, yeah, because people do. I think that people mean well when they say it, so that maybe hopefully it won't make the person that relapsed or lapsed or whatever be so hard on themselves. But I feel like we're setting people up for a relapse when we tell them that, because I've heard people say before someone's even relapsed, it's just it's I just don't agree with people saying that, because I don't believe it has to be a part. I don't think relapse should be expected, because then people are like, I've literally heard my members say before, well, I haven't relapsed yet, and it makes me nervous because I went through this, but it made me nervous because I haven't relapsed. Like they're thinking they're supposed to relapse,
Yeah.
and they're almost expecting it. So yeah, we need to take that out of the language. Tim says relapse is not part of recovery. You never have to use it. Absolutely, I agree. I think we all
I
three agree
agree.
on that. But it is something that I do hear.
Yeah, and I've heard it, and um, but like you said, like, do I fear relapse? Yes, to an extent, but not to an extent that I'm afraid to go sit down in a restaurant that serves alcohol. I'm not so fearful of a relapse that I'm afraid to go to the cigarette store that serves alcohol. I'm not afraid to be around my family who may drink. Like, I'm not that fearful because I know who I am today, and I know, like, there are certain times I probably don't want to put myself in a situation where I might could relapse. So I think through working, the work in the program that I work, it has taught me a whole lot about me, so I'm more aware of me. So I don't put myself in those situations. Do I fear it? I do, but I don't fear it to the point that I think it has to happen.
Yeah,
I
and
was told, you never have to use again, and that I took that and ran with that. Like, I don't ever have to use again. Is it a possibility? It could happen. I've had some stuff happen in recovery that made me feel like, yeah, maybe that would make me feel better, but I didn't do it.
well, that takes a strong person. But I will say that if you told me right now, 11 years in, that I can't go into a restaurant where alcohol is being served, I would, well, what, have you been working on anything? Where's your coping skills? So I would be a little concerned if you told me that. So I wouldn't expect you to be fearful like that, because it's like, well, what have you been doing 11 years that you can't go into an environment? Not that you want to just, I mean, but I couldn't walk into a pharmacy the first year. I couldn't take a Tylenol the first few years,
Yeah.
so, without, the taste, the smell, the appearance. But then you do the work. You do the work. So
I think that's an amazing point that you make too, because, a lot of people, I really hate, so this is a big pet peeve of mine, so I'm going to share it. But when people put on Facebook that, there's like this one that was going around, it talks about people who's never been addicted to anything, doesn't know how hard it is. Like, an addict gets up every day and it's a struggle every day. If it's a struggle for you every day, then you haven't done something. Like, you haven't been
amen.
working on you.
Amen.
Because it
It
should,
should not be a struggle. No. I mean,
I
not
think we
this
still,
far in.
yeah, I mean, I think we still struggle in areas of our lives. Like, because I don't like to give up control sometimes. Like, I want to fix managing control, but it's not a struggle every day. I don't get up every day thinking, oh my God, it's such a struggle. Oh, am I going to go get high today? That's not my thoughts first thing in the
I
morning.
think struggle in a successful recovery, struggle turns to mindful. So every day we're mindful, okay? We're no longer struggling. Now, I'm not going to lie and say I don't once in a while use the struggle is real hashtag when I'm talking about things, but no, you're right. We should not, if every day is a struggle for me, well, something's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And that's another, something else we might want to take out of the language or be more mindful of, because, and I have these conversations with people with my members, because we've literally had that conversation. The struggle should not be real every day, because it's like maybe the first few years it's really challenging. That first year is like super, super challenging. And then I'd go as far as say first 3 years, little
Yeah.
bit of, still monitoring ourselves. But then when I share my story, I say it got to the point where, I was in recovery. I was in therapy for 2 years with Pilar. So, you get to a point where using the drug or whatever is no longer part of your everyday thought process, because now you're doing yoga, you're reading, you're journaling, you're learning these effective coping skills. You're replacing that with a new behavior. And so it's no longer about that. And so I try to share that with people when I'm telling the easy part is getting clean. It really
Yeah.
is. That is the
Yeah,
easy
that's the
part.
easy part. The hard part is maintaining that some days because, like you said, the early years coming into recovery, can be more of a struggle because we are learning how to live life all over again without the one thing that we use, that the one constant in our lives that was constant. It was a constant in my life. The drug use was very constant in my life. Not only that, it was the coping mechanism that I used for everything and didn't realize it. So now I'm being put into this world without, like, you've taken my best friend away. You have taken my one thing away that I know is always faithful and loyal to me. Like, I can't do that anymore. And I know that sounds like a love story, a bad love story in my mind now because I know where it takes me. But that was the thing, as I come out of this world that I was living in, and all of a sudden my sleeping habits were 10 times worse than they were before, when I was using, because if I used a lot of different drugs, right? So, like, some drugs kept me up for days, and that was great. But there were some drugs that I needed that would put me to sleep because I'd done kind of both of them. But I've always had some sleeping issues. But my first 2.5 years of recovery, I didn't sleep no more than 1.5 to 2.5 hours a night for
Dang.
2.5 years. And I know now because a lot of that probably messed up a lot of our hormones that's in our brain and stuff, that regulates sleep and all that stuff. So it was probably messed up. So and of course I wanted to use something to put me to sleep, but I didn't. And I started using, you talking about using different things. I started doing like these meditations at night. Sleep started coming a little bit easier. It went from, 1.5 to 2 hours a night to, I would get 4 hours, but it was broken sleep. And then I would go, and then it started just getting better. So we start putting other things in place of what once was what we relied on for everything. There's a pill for everything. Sherry, there's a pill for everything. You know what I mean? It's kind of like there's one for sleep, it's one for awake, there's one to lose weight, it's one for energy, it's one for
Oh, I
blah, blah, blah.
agree. Yeah, there is. I've never dabbled in the sleep medicine, but because it doesn't keep you asleep all night or something like that. No, you're right. You're right. I thought of something.
You've got one of your followers on here. I don't know if that's Tim, but he says, everyone's desire to stay clean is different. Some people's desire is stronger. I think, and you're right in a lot of ways. I think it's the willingness. Like today, I'm not willing to go back to that lifestyle, so I'm going to continue on the one that I'm doing, regardless if it may be painful today. Some day, you know what I mean? Like some days it's painful, and I would rather go back to that because it's easier. But I'm not willing to go back to that life. I'm not willing to go back to that, so I'm going to stay in this one and go through the emotions and the feelings and things that I have to go through. So I do agree that, you can use it as desire or willingness, or however you want to say it. I think it kind of comes out to the same thing. It's all about what am I willing to do to keep the life that I have today. That's what
Oh,
we do.
exactly. Shifting gears here, do you think, because this is something I did want to bring up and it just came to my mind, do you think that this might ruffle some feathers? I don't know. There's only two people in here. Um, okay, there's a couple of dynamics to this. People that get clean but still smoke weed, but they're clean. Okay, I have to laugh at that because it's legal now. No. Okay, there's just so many things wrong with that. Now, I have nothing against people smoking weed. That's to each his own. I don't. I've never liked it. Okay. Now, if it had done something for me and I liked it, it would have been the drug of choice because I had access to it my whole entire life. I mean, easy access. It's almost a shame that I didn't go that route, but I didn't. But there are people that I mean, if you use, fine, but don't say you're clean. God, I'm not used to this thing. But you still smoke. I mean, I literally had somebody just, it was various, oh, you're clean now. Yeah, oh, good for you. Yeah, I'm like, good for you. That's awesome. Wow, I never thought you'd give up weed, but this is awesome. Oh, no, I still smoke weed. And I'm like, well, do you understand my confusion here?
I
That's
do. So I don't like, all right, so
I've
this can
met many
get
people
very
like that.
controversial, but I am one of those people that I know that, okay, so alcohol is legal too, but if I put that in my body, like I know what what I'm going to do. So with that being said, um, I am in a program that practices complete abstinence from all drugs and mind altering substances. And so therefore, I believe that if you are in that program that smoking weed is still, you're still altering your mind.
That's exactly it. I was going to say mood altering, but mind altering, whatever. Yeah. So, and again, it's not the argument. Well, I'm not in that program, but the argument for me is not uh,
I don't think
that
you're clear minded though if you're on that, because your mind is still being altered. So if you look
exactly.
up the word sober, the sober mind is like it's more of a clear mind, and clean, being clean is kind of like I don't have anything in there, like I'm clean. So if you're putting stuff in, how can you be clean or sober if you are using a mind altering substance?
Well, I don't think you can, but
Right,
there's some ignorance out there that, like that was literally verbatim a conversation I had with someone, but I have had conversations like that with multiple people.
right.
But this person was like, "Oh no, I didn't quit weed," and I'm like, "Well, you just told me you were clean," and it's mind altering, mood altering, whatever. You are using that to change the way you feel, and which means you don't like the current way you feel.
Right.
So and that was one of the things with this. Somebody that didn't understand, somebody thought that clean meant, which is what I think too, clean was all encompassing. So like if I say I'm clean, but there are people that say they're clean but they still smoke weed. There are people that say they're clean, oh, but I still drink. And so, and I don't know that we have to have all this terminology, but let's call a spade a spade. I mean, you can't dance around. I mean, you choose your recovery,
Right.
but be clear about it. Like I just said, I'm sober today. I'm clean, but I mean, not that anybody needs to take inventory on me or anything like that.
Right.
But it's like there's just so much confusion. Okay, here's the thing: if you say you're clean, I'm thinking it means everything,
Right.
because anything that's mind altering is not clean.
Right.
So just at least say what it, and I think that people that are doing it, like this one particular person, I think he was just ignorant to the terminology, because he literally, did not realize that weed was not clean.
Well, because so many people don't consider it a drug.
It
So, like,
is, isn't
it
it?
is, but that's the problem is so many people don't consider it because they talk about, they talk about, well, God created it, well, God created poison berries too, but my butt don't go around eating them either. You know what I mean? Like, I don't go around eating poison berries because God created them. So it doesn't mean that because it's been created by a higher power or whatever, by a creator, or whatever anybody wants to say. The thing of it is that, there's a lot of things out here, but anything of excess can be bad for us. If you eat too much sugar, if you eat too much fried food, if you eat too much XYZ, it can be bad for you. But I mean, I think that's where a lot, because that's the biggest argument that I hear with treatment clients is they're saying, but God created it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not a drug. But it
That
is.
leads that leads me to the other thing is weed's not addictive.
But then why is it when people don't have it, they're in ill mannered moods, like they're irritable, they're discontent. There's all these other things that go along with that. They can't sleep or eat, or they can't not eat or sleep. Or, you know what I mean? Like there's some physical aspects to it. I know they say it's not physically addictive, but
That's
think
it.
about it.
That's it. It's not physiologically addictive. I believe crack is not physiologically addictive, is it? Or you don't have withdrawals with crack. Is it crack?
I'm not really
Cocaine or
sure.
crack? One of those you don't have
One of them
withdrawals of.
two, probably. But the thing of it still is, though, Sherry, that like I know people that can't sleep if they don't have it, so I
Oh,
understand.
oh, the
Right.
weed?
Yes.
Yeah, so I
So,
think there's definitely a psychological component, but yeah, it may not be physically addictive, but again, people are trying to, and there's some people close in my world we've had this argument,
but
and
I'll tell you this, I can always come up with an argument if I am trying to make myself right and you wrong. So, I mean, and you're always going to
exactly.
have those people in your life. There's always going to be people that's going to do that. If I want to make me right, I'm going to come up with an argument. I done a paper, and I don't want to get too far off because I know you was trying to say something real quick, but I had to do a paper for school one time, and it was about, I actually chose which topic to use, and I had to do an argumentative essay, um, for the legalization of marijuana, for medicinal marijuana, and one against it. And what I found out, what I realized is through my academic journey so far, there is not a topic out here that I probably cannot come back with two sides of the story to, and them be valid arguments, proving which one is right. Can they both be right? You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's even with the weed, and that's where a lot of that stuff comes in at, is that people can come up with a very valid reason why to use weed and saying that it's not a drug. But at the end of the day, science still proves it's mind and mood altering.
Yeah, and you can preach that to the cows come home because that's the honest God truth, and I don't have any issues with people smoking weed, to each his own. I do know people, and have always known people that smoke weed responsibly. Again, it's not for me. Sometimes I wish it had been, but it's not. It messes me up big time. I can't do it. Can't do the Delta 8s. I can't do anything with THC. I can do CBD, but I cannot do THC. I cannot do that. My body does not like it. But where was I going with that?
I don't know. I don't know, but I will say this. I agree with you. It is to each their own. I don't think that everybody that
Yes,
uses,
that. I know people that use it very responsibly. Evening time, take the edge off, whatever. That's it. They're done. They got money in the bank. They work. No financial hardships, no problems, nothing. You wouldn't even know that they smoke weed. So those people, just like the responsible drinkers,
yeah,
uh, doesn't mean that it's not a mood altering substance. It is. They're using it for a reason. You're not using it for no reason. But it's when it becomes a problem, that's the problem.
right.
Yeah.
I don't think everybody that drinks or smokes weed or does, I don't think every one of them are addicts or they become addicted. I
Mm-mm.
don't believe that. I don't believe, but I do know for me, I have worked a program of recovery long enough that I know that it doesn't matter because you was talking about marijuana being legal. Like, it doesn't matter for me whether it's legal or not. Because if I use a substance, then I know where that's going to lead me because I've seen my track record. I can look back and I
Oh,
know where
sure.
it
And
takes
you're
me.
mindful of it. And alcohol is legal, but it
Yeah.
is a mind altering substance, bottom line. So,
No, my dog is being a brat right now.
well, I know it's 8:27 and we wanted to keep this to an hour, but yeah, there's all kinds of stuff we can go on and on about. But I just wanted to do that. Kind of wanted to get my chops warmed up and kind of because moving forward when I do the podcast and moving forward with these two, I want to get where it's kind of a conversation, a passionate conversation, where we're just letting our hair down and we're just talking whatever. and where people could just feel comfortable to say whatever they want to say. Who knows? Somebody might be scrolling through and hear something that they like. And that one thing that you said, can you say it again right now?
About what?
I don't know, but I told my fake assistant to make a note of it.
I don't even remember what I said now.
I wanted to get it clear on film because I kind of interrupted you the first time you said it, but I can't remember what it was about. Tim, what was it about? You don't remember really?
I really don't remember what I
You
said.
said
I remember
something
when I
good.
said it, you said, write that down, and I can't remember what I said even now, but.
It's okay. I got it on film. It's just going to be me kind of interrupting you in it, but you'd be like, I was like, that's good. Make a note of that. But it's good because that's probably what I'm going to use as a, clickbait, because it was just a good little quote that you said. And I like going back over watching, like whenever I'm interviewing my people, I make mental notes, go back to that, go back to that. So I know when I'm flip-flopping back and forth in the live replay to what I want to focus in on and start editing. But you're funny, Sherry. What am I funny about? Yeah, my fake assistant. I know I need an assistant because we don't have that wonderful quote, but I'll have to go back and I'll find it. All right. Well, thank
You
you,
thought Tim was
Judy.
the assistant, didn't you? And he didn't. You thought
What?
Tim was gonna be. You thought Tim was gonna be your assistant tonight, and he didn't even keep up with it.
Yeah, Tim says you need a new assistant. Okay, yeah. So, or I need to. I should have been talking to Alexa. She hears really well. That's why I had to whisper. I should have told her to take a note.
Mm-hmm.
But and thank you, Tim, for staying here for my whole live, and then thank you to Stacy. She had to cut out early, but I'm so glad that she joined us. And thank you, Judy, for being my special guest and continuing it
Yeah.
for part 2. And good luck with all your studies. I know you're back in school now, working on that master's degree.
Oh yes. Thank you for having me, and I'm grateful to be able to come on here. And who knows, maybe we'll do it again sometime soon. As soon as I get in the groove of being back in school again.
I know. I hear you. All right. And, well, you can see Tim says thanks, Judy.
Yeah.
All
Thank you.
right. Till next time. Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.